For number 6, we are supposed to order the numbers from least to greatest, okay? Not greatest to least, least to greatest. So we've got some numbers here, and they're actually expressions. So we need to estimate some square roots before we can know any of these numbers. If you look at the third number, though, square root of 81, we know that. That's 9. And remember, it's not negative 9 here because I already had the square root written, so it wants the principal square root or the positive square root. So we know that's 9. Let's look at this expression, the square root of 12. We need to estimate square root of 12. So we know that 12 is in between two perfect squares. Okay, so remember your perfect squares. Okay, we can see that it's between 9 and 16. So that means the square root of 12 is in between the square root of 9 and the square root of 16. So if you need the number line here, between 9 and 16, there's the middle. It's going to be closer to 16, and remember, we don't have a lot of numbers here. There's only 7 numbers between both sides. So if we do divvy it up, so there's only 7 units between those two numbers. So just be careful. It's not going to be super close to 16 or anything, but it'll be a little more. So 16 is 4 units away from 12 and 3 units away from 9. So it's really not even that much more than the middle there. So we'll label that as 12. Remember, we're talking about the square roots of each of these numbers. So this is actually 4 and this is actually 3. And the middle there would be half, so 3.5. So the square root of 12 is a little more than 3.5, so I would say it's about 3.6. So over here, 3.6 plus 7, that's about 10.6. So the square root of 12 plus 7 is about 10.6. 19 minus square root of 7, we can estimate square root of 7 same way. So we know that 7 is between 4 and 9, so if we square root, it is going to be closer to the square root of 9 because it's only, if you look at just 7 is 2 units away from 9 and 7 is 3 units away from 4. So it's just a little closer to 9. So I would say, so the square root of 4 is 2 and 9 there, so it's in between 2 and 3. So I would say it's a little closer to 9 or 3 since it's 7 is closer to 9. So I would say about 2.6 or 2.7 is a good estimate. So 19 minus 2.6, okay, 19 minus 2 is 17. So if you take away 0.6 more, it'd be 16.4. And if you need to, you can use your decimals to subtract here. Okay, 0, and then you have to borrow. 10, you get 4, and then 8 minus 2 gives you 16 there, 16.4. And then we have 9. So we can see that the smallest of the three, we have to go in order, is 9. So we write square root of 81. Don't write 9 for your final answer. We're going to write on this line over here, we will write square root of 81, not 9. And then we can see that the next biggest is 10.6. But again, we're not going to write 10.6. We're going to write the number that was given, which is square root of 12 plus 7. And that means our last number is the 16.4, which again, you have to write the original number, which is 19 minus the square root of 7. So that is in order from least to greatest. We'll go ahead and go on to part B and do the same thing. So for part B, our first expression that we're dealing with is pi plus 5. So we know that pi is 3.14, and if we add 5, we will get 8.14. Okay. Pi squared, we know that that's 3.14 times 3.14. Now we don't have to do this multiplication unless it's completely necessary. So we'll see if there's no number really close to this number and we can easily order it. We don't have to worry about it. So for right now, let's just kind of estimate that it's going to be 3 times 3. So we'll say it's about 9. We know it's 9 point something, but until we need more information, that's going to be a good enough estimate. The square root of 90, we know our perfect squares that's between is going to be 100 and 81. So we know that's 10 units from 100, and it's 9 units from 81. So it's pretty close to the middle. So when you're talking about a number line here, and we have 81 and 100, it's going to be pretty close to the middle, but it is closer to 81 than it is 100. So it's a little over here, would be 90. And again, we're talking about the square roots of all these numbers. So the square root of 81 is 9, the square root of 100 is 10. So our center point there would be 9.5. So it's a little under, so I would say a good estimate would be about 9.4. So it looks like these numbers are pretty close, so we are going to have to do a little more estimating here. So let's go ahead and multiply out 3.14 times 3.14. So we have to do the 4 times 4, which is 16, and carry our 1. Then we do the 1 times 4, which is 4, add the 1 is 5. And then finally the 4 times 3 gives us 12. And then on the next line we'll have our 0. And then we will multiply, and I'll go ahead and change the color here. Now we multiply the 1 by 4, okay, to get 4. And then we multiply the 1 by the 1, we'll get 1. And then multiply the 1 by the 3, and we'll get 3. Then we'll go again to the next line. I'll just use the same color here since we didn't have to carry last time. We've got to put 2 zeros down now. And now we'll run the 3 through. So 3 times 4 will give us 12. And we will have to carry a 1 over here. And then 3 times 1 will give us 3. Add the 1 is 4. And then our last product here is 3 times 3, which is 9. Now remember, when you multiply with decimals, how many ever digits are in the decimal places, that's how many times you have to go to the left with the decimal. So you're going to go to the decimal, we'll move it 4 times. So let's add down first. We'll get 6 and then 9. 2 plus 1 plus 2 is 5. 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 1 is 8, and then we have our 9. And again, because there are 4 digits in the decimal places, we move it 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 9.8596 is our estimate, new estimate for pi squared. So we can see that that is actually bigger than the square root of 90, which we estimated to be about 9.4. So when we're ordering these from least to greatest, we can see that our smallest one is the 8.14, which we know is actually pi plus 5. Okay, do not write 8.14. And then our next smallest is the 9.4, okay, that we estimated, which is actually the square root of 90. So you write the square root of 90. And then our last one is pi squared, which we estimated to be about 9.8596. So that was the biggest of the 3 numbers. So that is your correct order from least to greatest on part B. On part C here, we have 3 numbers to order. First one, square root of 10 minus 3. So we have to figure out what the square root of 10 is. So I know the square root of 10 is in between, or the 10 is between 9 and 16. So that means the square root of 10 is between the square root of 9 and the square root of 16, which is between 3 and 4. It's a lot closer to 3 because 10 is a lot closer to square root of 9. So a good estimate would be about 3.1. So we have 3.1 minus 3. So we've got about a tenth here, or just a fraction. It's not over 1. And then we just have 5. And then remember, this notation with the radical and the little baby 3 is a cube root. So we're looking for the cube root of 27. So what number times itself 3 times is 27? Well, if you're not sure, you can guess and check. 1 to the third is 1, so 1's a perfect cube. 2 to the third, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. Okay, 3 to the third, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. So the cube root of 27 is 3. So this is just 3. So then we have 3 numbers that are pretty easy to order. So for our final answer, we've got square root of 10 minus 3 because that's our 0.1, that's our smallest one. And then 3, which is cube root of 27. And remember, don't write 3, write cube root of 27. And then our biggest number is 5. So your order is square root of 10 minus 3, cube root of 27, and then 5. And that's it for ordering numbers. You will have problems like this in the test where you'll have to add or subtract, and one of them may be a square root or pi.